Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Ammo Hour. Thanks so much to everybody who's checked out episode 1 and 2. The feedback is really much appreciated, especially the feedback for the last episode with Scott Craig. I think it really struck a chord with so many people who enjoyed this story of overcoming adversity to, make himself a better version of himself, which is something we can all aspire to do. Probably relate to in many ways as well. Today's episode is a fantastic story. It's something me and those close to me are very aware of due to this guy being such a big part of the kind of Tayside music scene, which really was thriving in the early 2000s. And it really is just the stuff of legend. It's since gone on to be a BBC iPlayer documentary. There's a book on it, and he is selling the story to, and working with it to eventually make it into a movie. His name is Gavin Bain. He used to be in the rap duo Syllable and Brains. The solo version of that is Brains Mcloud. I toured with his band, Hopeless Heroic. And as I said, just a great guy that we've spent a lot of time with down in London. The crux of the story is him having all the talent and all the backing that should have meant he just made it in his chosen art form. However, the issue of not even nationality, because he's actually South African who moved to Scotland when he was young, but an accent being the barrier as to why he was told that there was not going to be a route for him to be able to achieve what he had set out his mind to do and worked so hard on and had such natural ability on, which is just unfair. And there is still industry doors closed because of so many stupid things, and hopefully we see that change, and whether that's kind of looks or an accent or socio-economic kind of issues. So this is really his story about how he didn't take no for an answer and how he went further than probably anyone else would have to basically tell them to fuck themselves and try and make it in another way. I don't want to ruin the story if you haven't heard it, but let's just say he sacrificed so much for it. It's not always plain sailing in this story. There was some dark as hell times for him, physically, emotionally. But out of the other end of having to kind of live a lie and create a deception, he's genuinely one of the most authentic people I know. He lives his art every single day. He's a writer, a producer, and composes and performs his own music as well. That is his job now. So from the depths of having to pretend he was something he's not, he now 100% is who he is, and I respect that massively. I really, really think you'll enjoy this story, and from there I'll link the kind of documentary and stuff like that in the program notes as well. Obviously, as always, please just share, get this thing moving, and hopefully we can reach as many people as possible and help these stories be heard by more people. As always as well, thanks to everyone who is listening, and I'd like to give you 20% off if you'd like to pick up a piece of merch. The link to the merch store is also on the Instagram page at the Ammo Hour. And if you want to send a voice note in, you can DM on Instagram or email theammohour@gmail.com. Let us know how you're doing. I love podcasts where we hear a bit from the listeners. So tell me how you're dealing with lockdown. Tell me if you enjoyed one of the episodes. Share about your story. Also, you can always just suggest guests or tell me about if you'd like to come on and why you think that would be a cool chat. All of the above. Also, I guess I'm always pretty wooden at these bits. You'll probably see a change or hear a change in my voice when we get onto the actual interview. I really hate this, just me and the camera thing, but I always think it's worthwhile giving a little bit of background on it. So hopefully I can nail that as we go forward and get a little bit more natural. But I do appreciate you all being on this journey with me, and I really hope you enjoy this conversation as well. This is episode 3 of the Ammo Hour with Gavin Bain. Okay, so I'm here with my buddy Gavin Bain. Very, very eclectic musical past, Syllable and Brains, Hopeless Heroic, who I met you through touring with that, man. You've done a lot of your solo stuff in production now, author, and a focus of the critically acclaimed BBC documentary, The Great Hip Hop Hoax. Easy for me to say, I'm not the rapper here. But how are you getting on, man? You all right?
Yeah, not bad, man. It's been a while since we've donned the same stage and got all mad, fucking crazy and sweaty in front of an audience.
Fuck, man,
But
that tour was absolute class, mate.
yeah, that was crazy. A crazy fucking year, man. I'll tell you what, when bands get together and they start out, I wish there was like a form that everyone had to fill in that just said, look, best case scenario, we're going to be in a real tight space together for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's going to get crazy.
Yeah.
Anyone's minuscule flaw that you don't really see in a rehearsal room, it's going to come out and it's going to be a giant in the room, you know? And it's like, and I'm the fucking giant. I'm like the flawed mental case that's going to become everyone's nightmare. But like, yeah, it's one of those things, man. Best friends, turn for a year. There isn't anything better than it. And no matter how bad anything gets, it's still better than every normal way you can spend your youth, you know?
100%, man. We've just done it's coming up to 10 years of the band, but obviously it's a point I want to raise later on because I think me and you are quite similar, and I will definitely come round to this later and more in depth. Me and you are quite similar, I think, in how obsessive we get over our art. Not to be wanky, but it's not just music, it's whatever we do, and that can drive some people away. But I think when dust settles, I've been having these chats and podcasts with previous members of the band. They've never held grudge. They when the dust settles, they realize how hard you were pushing it and they weren't doing the same work. So that made you pissed off, but you were really over obsessive with them. And it just gets a lot sometimes, but it's all for a good reason,
Man, you know what? It's like, I would recommend any human starts a band, and I'm very harsh in the way that when a young rapper comes to me and says I want to, then I'm kind of like, look, if this isn't plaguing your mind every single minute and thought, find another thing, because it can become everything, right? And it needs to.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's the thing with creating a band. I mean, I've done it where I've spent a lot of time in a studio alone or in a room, and you get lost in the fucking weeds, and you find something eventually. It's the journey of every song. But there's such a crash after doing it alone. You make something, no matter how beautiful you can make something or mental or crazy you can make it, it's just not the same as being in a room with other people. And then it's not just your idea, it's the branches of how it grows into this beautiful thing. And that's something that I think is just the art. It becomes the method of collaboration is something I think people should learn in their lives as well. I think that's a big part of the artist's journey is that, learning how to collaborate, and step back and let other people just do their shit.
Yeah, I was never amazing at it, but definitely in just your tastes change in terms of not liking whiskey, and then you hit your 30s, and not liking black coffee, and then I was never great at collaboration, not because I thought my ideas were better. I mean, I was working with guys like John Harkis, Greg Erickson, they were quite clearly more experienced, and I wouldn't say better because of an arrogant place, but just different, but there's no way I was thinking they can't help me with my writing, but I just always felt so oh no, it's going to not be my idea anymore. But then as you get older, you're like, I don't want to do all this myself. It's fun and it sounds better when I go, look, here's a melody. What the fuck do you guys think,
Yeah. I'm also I'm similar in the way is that I kind of never really been wanting all of the pressure. It's a thing, if you're going to take the kind of lead member role, it's not just being an alpha or something like that. It's more a case of it's you don't, in your head, you don't really want all that responsibility and the pressure and then everything kind of falling on you if you have a bad show. if you write bad, it falls through the floor. You can correct some things, but if the singer, if the leader of the band is off, it's dead. And so you don't, you have that battle inside. Is like, you don't want that role, but someone's got to take it. Like,
Exactly.
someone has to carry this shit. It's like, it's really, but it's character building, and I think the best front people are the ones who like can give everyone their say, and like are like, it's something I kind of, you learn eventually. And I think, like you're saying about John Harkness and Greg and them, it's the same way with me. Is like, if I didn't have people like Di and Rob and people that were in Hopeless Heroic, all the members in the entire like history of that band, if I didn't have them, like I definitely would be a cunt, like a real, I'd be annoyed. It's like when you're putting something together, especially in the big industry, you just deal with people who don't get your vision all the time, and so when you actually have that harmony of band members who can go, say no more, got it, and then they take it and make it like, whoa, that's like, it's a dream. But then that also humbles you. Like, the first thing when you like fight for an idea and you realize someone else was right, it's the most necessary thing that you need as an artist.
Totally, man.
Got to lose the argument a couple times,
And it's one of these. Sorry, man. On you go.
Yeah, I was saying, if you never lose the argument, like, then what did you learn? Like, what did you become? How did you get better?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things. Sometimes, like, you're not even thinking you're being stubborn, and then you start to get to a point, and you're like, the building blocks start to go into place that the other person's idea is right, and you're kind of just like, get to a point, you're like, oh yeah, I've just spent half an hour trying to use it right. It's the most like raw form of humble ever, because you literally just have to sit there with your guitar going, yeah, boys, you're definitely right. And I've been like vehemently arguing this for an hour in practice. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. And the worst thing is, what we started doing is filming every rehearsal and every writing session. Because we started realizing, fuck, like, you miss things, and you're like, all right, don't worry about it, we'll get it in the next session. But like, then you see every time you argued a point that was so clearly wrong, when you watch it back, you're like, oh, shut up, like, what are you doing? Totally stopped a beautiful moment of like escalation in the piece, and you're like, no, what are you doing? It's like, because of your limited idea in a moment, when you stop and look at it afterwards, you're like, these are people flowing, get out of the way of the flow. But yeah, but again, all those things are just like, this is why I always feel like people should never be called good or great or want to be that in the kind of the early stages or like even in 20s. Like, so this idea of people stopping music is mental to me, because you literally only learned when you got to like after all that.
Totally,
you learn now
100%.
Do you know what I mean? So it's crazy when you see bands like blow up so young and so show so much promise, and then it's all over by the time they're like 29, and it's like, holy shit, you just learned how to do this shit, It's like, you just learned how to become like a good artist.
I know it's going to be the stock answer from anyone, but I mean, I honestly feel I have clarity. I just wouldn't talk about it if I didn't feel it was true. But like our last couple, like the things we've released over the last couple of years, undoubtedly, because I've not been trying to write for radio, because there's been no money, because we're not out touring all the time, we've had less pressure. So we've just written from like straight from the heart, no frills, and it's undoubtedly the best stuff we've ever done. Go back to early EPs, first album. I don't hate them. It's a young band trying to do their thing, but you had all the time and energy, but you didn't have the craft. Yeah. And now you've got none of the time, none of the spare money, but you're just flowing. And so I guess like that's when you kind of obviously want to make it and then keep going and have that kind of finance and push behind you. Yeah. But yeah, 100%, man. The stuff you've been sharing, which I'll ask you about as well, the production stuff, man, sounds absolutely fucking huge. And I mean, I rated to fuck. I loved Hopeless Heroic. I love listening to like the Syllable and Brain stuff and that, but undoubtedly it was nowhere near as thick as the word I would use. Music seemed to be a bit thinner back then, sonically as well, but like you're not thinking about layering productions and stuff. It was very much like this line, sing on it. Same for my stuff, you know, our stuff.
Yeah.
But I just think everyone's got so much more texture in that with age, because you just have so much more reference points.
Oh yeah, and it's all about that. And like my thing was always like was always trying to recreate my initial influences, which aside from like the rhythmic influences of like Motown and stuff like that, or great music from the 70s and 80s, like I was always trying to recreate film score, you know,
Right, yeah.
in music, like 'cause I'm majorly influenced by films and movies. Like not even knowing how, but like my granddad had a video store in the 80s and 90s, and I used to sit in there just watching film. Like, but you hear film is so much about music.
Oh yeah.
So that was like impregnating the kind of soundscape of my inner mind, you know? And so that's always, without really knowing what I'm trying to get at, that's always what I would go to. You know, like, so if I was saying, oh, this part's got to be epic, I'm thinking of Ben-Hur. I'm thinking of big movies. I'm thinking of Terminator. I'm thinking of like epic scenes. I'm not really thinking of just what we're dealing with here, you know. And then obviously but like without having the reference points and without having the knowledge of, like, you have to go through all that. You actually have to go into the different studios, work with different engineers, all different ideologies, you know, all different. Some people want to stack things up. Some people say the more you stack, the smaller the song gets. You know, there's all these ideas that you've got to go through, every single one of them, and then come out at the end with a philosophy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's all I think that you hear now in the progression of things is it's just understanding how to put the craft across, you know, and also not running away from responsibility of like, oh, I'm going to leave this in the hands of an engineer or a mixer. Again, it's that whole thing of, I don't want to mix the tracks. That's someone else's job. But then you're missing out on another part of the beautiful craft.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was always kind of scared of that. And then it's like that thing of like, turn everything over, find what you're actually going before you leave, you know, because down the line, that drum sound is going to make you hate that record.
Oh man,
you know,
so much. Or we missed harmony. Don't worry, it's fine. And
yeah, it's like, no.
You always hear it, but it's not there. You know, it's shocking, man.
It drives me nuts. Like, we had an argument, I remember, on the Hopeless Heroics album that, you know, we'd got 5Ks on an EP. We had got another EP getting like crazy reviews. We had got endorsement from like AC/DC. We got people talking about us. Camfield was playing us on XFM, bigging us up as like the next big UK act. And then we go in a studio, and everything else on that record is beautiful, but the drums don't hammer home. They just do not. There's something, you know, and there was an argument in the studio about it at the time, but that you're listening in a big studio and it's coming through the studio, and you can just turn things up and mask an issue. But it's essential, you know, when you realize what the problem is, it doesn't matter if it's going to cost another 10 days and put the budget up by another couple of grand. You need to solve that fucking issue. You know?
You've gone that far. You've spent years honing this. You've spent, you know, a month like recording it. Like, don't leave now. And I don't say that as if like, you know, I've made those mistakes as well. But it's like you'd learn now. You'd be like, well, fuck, if we need to come back next weekend, we need to delay things because it's not ready. You know.
Absolutely. But those are just the the road. You know, the journey of like, you got to make that mistake. Now, I've made so many mistakes, and now when I can sit down on a project and feel like, yeah, I'm not going to make those mistakes. And it's all the mistakes almost become like, once you stop making the mistakes, it becomes like automatic. But that's just like, you just need time for that. And that's why it's that crazy idea of like, you know, slowing down or moving away from what maybe your life source is. I might create loads of things, but music is a life source, you know, so it's not really an option, or I can't go like 4 days without creating even the start of something new. Even if I have 40, 50 songs on the go, I still have to kind of take a new journey. That's what it is. It's just a mental thing. It's like, and it's all tied in. It's like I go for a run, or I go play football, I score a goal, I come back, I got it right. You know, it's like it has to happen. The celebration now, like, it's not just a case of like feel good, go out, have sex, or feel good, go out, hang out. You know, it's like feel good, right, do something incredible then enjoy like that you've taken another journey, you know. And
Yeah, man.
it's like it's a part of like your inner core, like building and making your inner core and taking those journeys, that it just doesn't make any sense to stop at any point, you know.
That's like reminded me of something. So I always used to, I mean, a lot of the conversation in this, it's not a podcast centered around it, but I think it's very visible in the world now that mental health should always have been spoke about more. It's not getting like magnified now. I think it's just like they've lifted the carpet and gone, oh fuck, we've been sweeping it under there for far too long,
Yeah.
Everybody has that. But I used to heavily suffer like after a recording session or after touring or something, and I never thought it was coming. And then because obviously we weren't playing to huge crowds, but like the people that are there are so appreciative. You're with your brothers, and it's not to say you don't miss people back home and that, but you're just doing this pure passion project. It's same in the studio. You're there, you're working on this. You feel like you're an expert, and then you go to a dead end job on Monday when it's all finished, and it was like boom.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder, like, is it its own specific type? And it probably isn't just music. It could be if you're a photographer or a painter or whatever. Do you think there's this like almost artist curse, but not try to even be poetic here, that there's maybe grey area in your head all the time, but we focus it on other things. So when it's taken away from you and you have to sit at a desk job or something like that, then it's not that it comes on. It's just that you're more aware of it because you can't ignore it with the things you love.
There's multiple things there. I mean, one part of it is, which is something that's taken me a very long time, not fully there yet, but it's that enjoy the silence, like just being able to enjoy little things, like finding nice little hobbies. For me, hitting a ball, like passing, setting up someone's goal, like I rely on that as little things. It feels like winning a league. It feels like playing a cup final, every little thing in that, and like the same as like any little sport or any little hobby, down to like walking a friend's dog, like these are all things that you have to learn to enjoy, because you can't always, like you need, it's like the oscilloscope, it's the curves, you need to go low and up and then low and up, and you need to ride that wave. It's like, but there's nothing, you can tell yourself that, but there's, the other part of this is, and what I've always thought, it's a part of my philosophical conflict that I've fought, the war that I've fought in music, is I stand on what's the point living. Now, I'm someone who's attempted suicide, and when I was younger, when I was trying to convince Bill to come on the Cell Bone Brains journey, I was telling people I'll kill myself at 25 if I haven't made it. Like, and there was nothing about that statement that didn't scare people, because it was like, he's being serious, he'll do that, and that, having said that to myself, that was always a play, because it was like, time's running out here, buddy, and so that, having that mind. But the philosophical argument that I was trying to articulate was, what is the point living if you can't spend time with your inner child and do what you love? Because I kept seeing people throughout my life. My dad worked really hardcore jobs, like heavy shit, and he would come home broken. And then eventually, when we moved to the UK and he was working on Celtic Park, a scaffolding fell on his back and broke his back. And that sent him down, and he didn't want to do that job. He was working with people he didn't like, etc. And I always thought to myself, don't do the job then. What's wrong? Don't do the job, And that happened to him. And for me, it was like, bang, a little shot in the head saying, never don't sit around moaning about your job. Fucking quit it. Go for the other thing. And even if it was going to be you're broke, you're you don't have the things you want, doesn't matter. At least you can go after that thing. So what is the dream? Where am I going to go? That was always the easy answer. It's like, fuck it. There's no argument here. I'm like coming from trauma. I'm down. I'm dark. I've got no confidence in me. My journey is to go find that fucking confidence so I can someday become someone who has a life that can erase this past. That's the lie you tell yourself. When you start out a journey, you believe in a lie. And your lie that you tell yourself is always like, how do I can do this and it's going to make everything better. When the reality is, you have to face your fear, but that's the journey you take. You know, you have to want to go on that long journey. And the one thing I always see from musicians, especially people who come up saying, "Oh, I'm really fucking good. I'm really this and I'm really that," is that it's like, you don't got it. Like, you are not going to take this journey, because as soon as this gets hard, you're going to run for the hills. As soon as you don't have any money and you're stuck and nothing's coming in, and it's like, fuck, I now got to live on £1 a day budget, you're going to fucking piss the bed. You're going to run.
Yeah,
and
man.
it's the kind of thing, is like, when you know your journey is there, that stuff doesn't scare you, you know? And that's what
100%, man.
people have always said is crazy about me, that I'd be willing to do that. And I've always just looked at it like, my dad broke his fucking back, almost killed him. What does money matter? Like, I don't pay me anything. I'm not going to do something I don't love, you know? And
For sure, man.
That conflict is always going to be there. So if you go and do a major label deal, that conflict is going to be there, because then they're going to try to change your music, fuck with your art, and you're going to be going, fuck no, keep your money. And it's going to be, you know what I mean? So it's conflict consistently, but you got to take that war on. You know, you got to fight for what you believe in.
Man, I don't know if, I mean, I watched, I know you've spoke about it so much, and I don't want to hammer over the point, but just a really brief overview, if anyone's listening hasn't, and you can then go and kind of delve into it more. But you guys were kind of up and coming rappers in Arbroath, yeah, in a kind of
I was in Dundee, Bill was in Arbroath, yeah.
In a kind of scene that, I mean, great, Perth was included in that. The Tayside scene at that time was class for kind of like skate punk, tech punk, some kind of pop punk. You guys
all
obviously,
our friends were dope bands, like PMX, like everyone was like so fucking good.
Viewfield Hotel and stuff.
Yeah. But everyone was so good at band stuff, and we were skater punks. We were from that as well, but it's just that the way that we could articulate our pain or whatever was inside us was with words. It was like words coming. I mean, the thing that the way I fell into an addiction to words was because of what happened to me at school, being beaten in. The way I was jumped by these kids on the day that I was really close to signing a football contract, and I got beat so bad that I spent days in ICU. And then when I came out of that, my uncle was putting headphones on me while I was sleeping, and he was playing Pac and Biggie and all these, you know. So when I came out of that, all I could see was words. So I was just completely obsessed with words before I met Bill. And I'd had the crazy dreams of being on stage. I'd started to draw in my rhyme books. I'd started to draw this one dream over and over. And I'd seen Bill in the dream. So when first time I met Bill, the reason I stopped and turned to talk to him was because I'd seen him, and I'd had that recurring dream, and I'd had it not too long before I'd met him. And I was just like, fuck, I got to talk to this guy. There's a reason I have to talk to him, because he's in my dream, you know? So that kind of stuff's always kind of happened to me. And I always try, for good or bad, I always try to follow whatever it's saying to me, you know? Being like a lucid dreamer since I was about 8. So whenever these things would come to me and I'd see long stories or I'd see full pathways, I would just take them, even if they were good or bad, because I was like, the dream's trying to tell me something. So Bill and I had this amazing chemistry, and we built these rhyme games, and we got ourselves so good so quick. I mean, by so quick, I still say maybe 3 years to be really proficient with what we were doing with the craft. But in that time, I managed to become a really solid beat maker, you know, not really a producer, but a beat maker. And so we went, you know, we weren't really getting any. There was only 2 other acts. There was Ran Clan from Dundee who were doing hip hop, and then Mellowed Elements from Arbroath. And we were just too young and cocky and like very American like style, like how we dressed and the swag of us. They weren't feeling us, and so we never really had much going for us, you know, up in the D. And then we saw this audition that was like, "Are you the next Eminem?" And our whole thing was to like freestyle in the canteen and make everyone laugh. And so if you're trying to make everyone laugh, you just say the most profoundly shocking shit, you know, and you rhyme well with it, and then everyone's laughing their ass off. And then when Eminem broke around that same time, it was like, fuck, this guy's doing the exact same thing. And people kept saying, you guys are so much like Eminem, but like Scottish. So we saw that advertisement for Are You the Next Eminem? We're like, fuck yeah, you know. So went down, did that audition, and just got fucking laughed at. Just absolute.
And that was in London.
Yeah, it was in London. It took a 13-hour bus journey down. Battled our way from the back of a fucking queue that went round the block twice. Managed to get, because we would never have got in if we didn't do that. Managed to get in, and just thought, how good are we? You know, that like in love with ourselves. You know, like look at us, we're going. And then
sorry to interject, but special it was like 2 years as well, because I can imagine some people were down there on their own, and you had each other to champion each other as well.
Actually, there was 3 of us. Ozzy, my best friend at the time, Ozzy was one of was in the group as well. So we just felt like kind of we could go off each other so well, you know.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we got in there, then all of a sudden you're standing in front of fucking 40, 50-year-old people who are not cool. You know, the heads of department, you know, three heads of department of Polydor. You know, Eminem's label, but it's like Eminem could have rapped that day and they would have said, no, not Eminem-y enough, you know?
Yeah.
So they just laughed at us for being Scottish. They thought it was a joke, which was extremely painful when you've spent every day of your life. You know, I got kicked out of uni because I was just making beats all day and rhyming all day. I lost my job because all I was doing was that as well. So I kind of like subconsciously probably sabotaging everything in my life to make sure that I focus on rap, you know, kind of giving yourself no way out. And then, so when they just laughed at us and told us that we sounded like the rapping Proclaimers, that just fucking killed me. You know, for me, it was like, I was so brutally damaged from that. It was like, I just have to now find a way of proving to them, of like fucking them over. Like, that's all I want to do now. You know, it's like I get angry. It's like revenge. It's like, again, it's the wrong way to view things, but the revenge becomes like at the forefront of your mind. You know, it really shouldn't be, but it's a great incentive. You know, every day hearing that, like, you're never going to make it because you're Scottish.
You talk about footballers, man. How many great footballers it's because they were told they were rejected. They might have just been a mid-level club if they had it easy. But if they're told you'll never do it, like, I'll fucking show you. Next level of incentiment, you know?
Yeah, and like in every...
Incentive, sorry.
Yeah, in every area of the entertainment industry, and you try to write a book... I'm a little bit different. Like I've managed to, it's a crazy thing, but we'll get to that. But like it is a problem in the industry where whatever you try to do, people shoot you down, and it's almost like that's the process. Mm-hmm. You know, you get shot, and then, you know, and then you stay in it. Most people when they get shot down are like, oh, well, sorry, catch you later, you know, and it's like, all right, no, that's normality. That's normal people. The ones who stay the course are the people who are like, can take the shit piling up on them and start to enjoy the smell, you know? So that was definitely the case for me. All I did when I got back from that audition in Dundee was just come up with idea after idea and just keep hitting the dudes with it. And they were just like kind of worried. They're like, what is he saying, man? He's coming up with like just crazy shit. And then
so were you floating the idea at that point, or were you just like hitting more?
On the bus on the way back, I was like,
really?
We got to change. Like, we got to become American. Well, you know, but I didn't like really fully understand what I was saying. But I remember going and visiting my sister in London. Before I came up with the full idea, I remember going up to people and asking them directions in different accents. I asked them in an Australian accent, and they were just like, "Nah, it's over there." I asked them in an English accent, and they were like, I asked them in a Scottish accent, and they were like, fuck off. They didn't like just walk past. I asked them in an American accent, and they were like, oh, sorry, yes, well, you know, like I could take you there, you know, and it was just bazonkers to me. It was like, I thought people didn't like Americans, but at the core, America is the home of culture. And when an American stops and talks to you and you're not an annoying way, then I think everyone kind of loves them. That's kind of what I got from that. So for me, it was these little things saying, if you do this, and I was just reading the signs. And so I remember I was like, I was really struggling with like sleep. I've always had an issue with sleep. But I remember the one night I was like, I had an argument with the guys because no one wanted to do this stupid, insane ideas that I had. And I was just like so down. I'd torn my fucking room up, angry. And I remember there was a poster on my wall. The two posters survived me tearing my room apart. One was Beetlejuice, and the other one was Eminem. And then I remember turning the TV on, just trying to like get the noise out of my head. And Channel 4 had The Secret of My Success, which is an 80s movie, Michael J. Fox. But it opened up, it came on at this scene where in the scene he decided to become someone else. And then he cons his way to the top of a company. And I was just like, holy shit, yeah, that's it. That is it. Like,
amazing.
Become that and play it well, and no one will ask a question. Because if you've got the skills, then what? My question was, even if they just say, cool, you guys are really great, you know, even if we got a little further, it would have been fine. I would have known, so it's not about being Scottish. It's not about the talent. It's about they can't sell Scotland. You know, that they're afraid to sell. They think it's a risk to sell Scottish rap, which fair enough, you know. So yeah, I took on the character. Our close friend Brian, who was kind of like just believed in us, and I was so close with him. He was one of Bill's next door neighbors. He like loved us and he believed in us, and then he died. He had this really horrible accident that happened to him. They were play fighting and a dude fell on his neck, and then a dude left him there and he died. And so that for me was like, I could not stop seeing his face everywhere. And it was just like, I can't be stuck in this kind of my trauma, this misery of like mourning someone I can't believe is gone. And at his well, we didn't really like the I can't stand funerals where priests are like telling you shit about like God's way and stuff. So me and Bill wrote rhymes and we stuck them on a tree, and at that tree we were like, Bill was like, all right, let's fucking do it, you know. And so we decided, and then that point we came down, and it was like, it seems like I'm making a long story short here, because a lot of things happened in the mechanics of getting the deal. The mechanics of making it are very fucking complicated, and they're got so much to do with the first A&R. We basically we took one of our songs and just did it in American, and I'd already been messing with that and letting people hear it, and people kept saying, "Oh, who's that?" You know, like people were thinking, "There's no way it's me," because it was starting to sound really good. And I took one song and me and Bill did it. Ozzy didn't want to like do it because he didn't want to compromise. He was really in like, I think I know who I am. I don't think this works for me, you know. But he was like, you should do it. You should do it alone. I remember him being like, you should do it alone. You know, you're good enough. You know, because I think he was seeing through the point of like, you're doing it with Bill because Bill's confident and you're not. You know, and all these little things were going through my head.
Like you complemented each other. Like you maybe had kind of more of the raw talent and stuff, but he was more of maybe a front man kind of thing.
Well, Bill was just exuded so much talent, you know, and he was really good with girls and he was handsome. And I was coming from trauma. So I was just kind of like, I don't want to talk to, you know what I mean? Like not having that, you know, and that's why it's even more kind of, it's such a journey to become a front person from that, because you just have no belief in yourself. You think you're ugly. You just don't have any view of yourself. You know, you can't
just to interject here for people listening. Yeah, if you'd only seen you playing in Hopeless Heroic and shit, man, you would never have believed like how you feel. You know, it's
a huge journey, but you can't tell yourself, oh yeah, but you know, just time, and you'll just
Yeah.
So I believed I needed someone. I needed a group. I needed someone else. You know, I had the ideas. I knew I was like I had the talent and stuff, but I didn't think I could do it myself. And Ozzy was really always trying to tell me, he's like, dude, you are good enough. You can, you know. And so Bill and I, we kind of Americanized ourselves up to the tits, and we went back down. And the first A&R meeting we have is a dude from Sony, because the song we made, I entered it into a BBC One competition, and 1 week we're getting laughed at by the industry. This will never work. I enter in a competition and it wins, and it's getting Radio 1 playlisting. So people were telling me, holy shit, you know, like, fuck, you're on the radio, you know. And then we got an email and a dude was like, come down and see us. And that gave us the day, because even though we decided we'd go, you put it off, because it's such a big thing. And give up life, give up our girlfriends, give up everything here and just go. not knowing when we could come back. And I think there was a big part of me saying, we'll be back in 2 months. It's never gonna work, you know. But mentally inside, knowing this could fucking work, you know, because we started calling up people with the American accent, and before we'd call up people and just get laughed at, you know, people are just like dial tone, you know. As soon as we call with the American accent, we're getting through. And so that for me was like another little, you know, suggesting that this is going to work. But the first A&R meeting we had was with a guy at Sony, a young dude called Dougie Bruce, who's now high up at Epic. I think he might actually run Epic, but he was a junior A&R then, and he's Scottish, and we just were not ready for that. Like when you're trying to put an American accent on, you sit down with a Scottish person, it's just your accent starts to come, you know, you start flowing off each other and you start saying things. And I remember one of us said, Ken, you know, because he said something and then one of us said, I can. And it's always an argument who said it, but I guarantee it wasn't me. But yes, after that we agreed, because we managed to get a gig that Friday night as an industry showcase, which you can't get those gigs. You can get gigs and gigs and gigs, but an industry showcase where the only people in the audience are A&Rs from labels, those are the hardest gigs to get. I got that gig because we basically called up in the American accent and bullied the promoter, telling him he had to, and it's a very like Jerky Boys American accent. Like it wasn't even consistent with the accents we were playing. We put on like almost like a Brooklyn type accent and just bullied the guy into giving us this slot. And it wasn't really that hard. You know, once he knew we were Americans touring, friends of Eminem, giving him the spiel, he's like, oh yeah, cool. He gave us the headline slot. So before that gig, we knew, I remember kind of just saying, we can't, after that thing, that guy, and I felt like that guy at Sony knows, like, so now fuck Sony, we can't sign with Sony because there's a guy there who knows, you know. So we decided at that point, it's like, we can't half-ass this. We've got to become the characters, stay in the characters, because we're Scottish, so we'll speak to each other Scottish. We'll never be able to like get the diction right. And so we were like, yeah, fuck it, we'll do it. And so we played the characters with each other every minute, with everyone else. And slowly but surely the characters kind of were starting to firm. But that show that we did, we decided to not just do a normal show anymore. Now it has to be theatrical. So we had a fake head with maggots coming out the bottom of it, and one of us would cut the head off and then put it, you know, splash the blood across the crowd. Like we were thinking of now theatrical stage show. Like it can't just be rap, because there's going to be other rappers who just stand there like yo, you know. It has to be something no one's ever seen.
Quick interjection here, because see when you were explaining about your love for kind of soundtracks, and you always have the vision of like cinematography along with your music. I thought that was quite apparent in Hopeless Heroic. Certainly, he's had the backing tracks with the violin, and he's really like, you know, your foot up on the monitor and that. And by the way, I'm not like playing this down. I respected this even more because we were playing the same shows. Talking about small floor shows sometimes huge rooms, like, but you would still do the same show. Rob would still be up in the couches if it wasn't like a speaker, you know, in a lounge or something. Yeah. And obviously, I think that's then no surprise that was how you'd started to see that you would do that with that, make it more of like a show, like a, you know, production, even though it was just two guys really.
Because we didn't have time. Our whole thing was like, yeah, we could go and battle and do that whole scene, but we just did not have time to fuck around. It was like, we need to make this happen now, you know, because we got girlfriends back home and their lives are not going to wait for this. So our whole plan was to get in. How to say this plan is to like get in, make a hit record, have it top the charts, and then come out on TV saying, well, we're Scottish, go fuck yourselves.
Who knew you were doing this back home? Everyone?
Like, my family knew, but you could say the words. It doesn't mean they know what you're going to do. They have no idea what you're going to do. And that's, like, I think, the same thing with everyone. Like, you know, a couple of skate friends knowing that we're going down, because we've been trying out the accent, and, you know, people kind of being like, oh, you know, Gavin, Bill, what are they up to? You know, crazy little characters, you know. But the reality is we were really practicing to do something, not knowing that we were practicing to basically become new people, and how once you get a little bit of success when you're trying to do that, it's gonna create monsters in many ways. But that show that night it went down so well. Immediately, a dude, Chris Rocco from Ireland, head at A&R Ireland, came up after backstage and gave us his card, immediately. And it was like, holy fuck, we're in the door. One show. Like, we've been doing this 5 years. We don't really have that many fans. It's always a contentious issue of why we're even on the bill. Now we have the head A&R from Ireland with his card saying, come and see us. And then so everything on the run up to getting a deal was always the pressure, the time pressure, being like, fuck, we need something big, like imagine putting yourself under that pressure, not just like, all right, I need to write a song, because the whole time we had to write songs, we're trying to get in the studios, but actually it's like that can take so long. We're going to make great songs and then convince someone we're good. Why don't we go and fucking blow their mind? Why don't we walk in their building with our pants down, mess everyone's hair up, piss on their computers or whatever, like thinking like, how do we fuck people's lives up here so that they when we leave their building, they're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And so it's that becoming monsters to attract attention. And the game we would play is if we go into a bar, no one can leave the bar without thinking about us. If we leave, everyone's thinking about us. So these are all like, they're just games we're playing because we just have a small target of get the entire industry talking about us. So when I say going to a bar, we were blagging into industry events, industry award shows, and we were spreading rumors about ourselves. We'd go into the pub maybe one night, Bill would go over that side, play an Australian journalist, I'd go the other, and we'd walk around the room spreading rumors about Syllable and Brains.
It's so clever, man. I mean, it's so like, it seems an obvious thing to do, but no one just has like the balls to do that. Do you know what I mean?
And one of the things that a friend, Blair McCafferty, once said to me, because I was scared to drop into a vert ramp, was he said, I was standing on the edge of the ramp and I had my eyes, he was like, close your eyes. I'm like, no, I'm not going to fucking close my eyes. He's like, close your eyes. And he put his fingers to the back of my head like that. And he was like, the next time you're scared to drop in, imagine that I'm in your mom's house and I got a gun to her face and I'm going to pull the fucking trigger if you don't drop in, if you don't do that thing you're scared of. And that always stuck with me. Just crazy words from a friend. He doesn't have the intention of changing your life. Of course not. But when you take things in and you internalize them, because one, I look at it like, oh, that's a killer lyric, or oh, that's I fell in and almost broke my arm that day, but I didn't die, and it dispelled the fear of doing that. And that's one of the great things about skating, is that when you get hurt, you don't die. You break your leg, you don't die. You know what I mean? You heal, you come back, you do it again. And just seeing people's arms break and the bone comes through, all those little things, like, you didn't die. So it's, what's the worst thing that could happen? So when we're going forth, like, even though I'm scared, I'm shaking, I'm having to start taking pills to control my chemistry of my body, like uppers and downers, to control how much my heart rate's going because it's making me sweat. All these things are like fucking my head up, and to the point where I can get like a still hand, because I used to be so nervous when I picked the microphone up when I was starting out rapping. My hand would shake so much I couldn't get it off the stand. And so when you're a rapper and you're trying to hold the mic to your hand, it doesn't look good when you're doing that, because I was so nervous. I had such anxiety, performance anxiety. So now that's why it was another reason of, if I could create Brains, he doesn't have that fear. I have that fear. Gavin does, And so those are dangerous, traumatic ideas to have in your head when you create a character, because from that first gig, for me, it was like, in my head, it was like, he is who you should become, and it's like, well, who is he? You don't even know this guy. And now you're going to make a mental case and you're going to play him, and he's obviously lovable, and he's obviously doesn't have any of your necessary fear. So you're just going to go crazy. And it was like a license with Bill. Bill was already confident, but this was now a license to just do whatever the fuck you want. Like there was nothing that we didn't. It was like, if we get into a massive fight, and it's like, great, everything was great, because like it didn't matter, and that tells you a lot about how that works, because That's how the world works. You know, you can do negative shit. Everyone's going to talk about it and no one cares. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. So we weren't thinking like that then, but that's actually really the behavior that's, you know, if you want a hit thing, 50% of the people have to hate it. You know, and so
Correct, yeah.
that's how they think, you know. It's like, you know, the Antwoord end up being such a prominent act because the first day that the song plays on Radio 1, it almost breaks the radio because half of the people calling say that is the worst thing I've ever had in my life, get it off the air, and the other half are like, that is the best thing I've ever had in my life. And that point, you know, that is a huge hit thing because it's going to make people talk. We're not thinking about any of that. All we're trying to do is get a big manager, get the agent on board, get the deal, you know? And so even when you get the manager, he's like, cool, but we need a bigger bang. We need more. And we're like, don't worry about it. You know, we're blagging into this show that, you know, or like, we're just like, don't worry. We'll, you know, so every single thing that happened had to become insane. So even like, we're doing this battle comp and I'm battling this guy. It's the O Bar in Camden. It's just packed in with like, kind of like the elites of UK underground hip hop, packed in, and I'm battling this dude, and his girlfriend's in the front row spitting on me. She just keeps spitting on me, you know, and I'm just like, fuck, you know, and it's not making me fuck up, but I'm turning all my lyrics on to her spitting on me, you know, like we know who spits in this relationship, who swallows, you know, like who spits and who swallows, you know, like things like that. So it's getting easy lines, but then she keeps spitting on me, and this spit's getting thicker. You know, she's hawking at me now, you know? So I eventually, as soon as the beat stops and he's about to rap, I'm just like, and I just hawk up the biggest phlegm ball. And I'm like, bah! Spat it right in her face. And he went for me. Bill's a little bit behind in the crowd. And Bill's like, yeah! Bill starts the stage, fucking riot. So a little moment like that, which was just, I'm not specifically thinking, but I am in the back of my head, in brain's mind, I'm thinking, fuck this up. Like, let's cause something big. And to be honest, we've almost never got out of that situation alive. It got bad. It got real bad. But I remember when we were finally walking into Sony's boardroom, we got cornered by all these people who work at Sony going, is it true that you did this? Is it true, you know? And one of them's like, is it true that you spat on a person? It caused a riot, you know, like, and all these things, half true, half completely bullshit that we made up. And now a whole boardroom at Sony of employees at Sony are like excited to work with this act. Everyone had been talking about us. And that's one of the things, the hardest thing for like a pop artist or someone who's trying to break into the major industry is they always want to call the label, or they always want to send a demo in, or they want to throw a show and invite the A&Rs down. And that's kind of missing the point, because the reality is, if an A&R, if you manage to meet an A&R and then you've got their text, their number to text, or whatever, and they're maybe interested in your name, all they do is they open the door and they say your name out to the pit of junior A&Rs. And if no one knows who you are, if like, nah, I never heard it, you are done. Like, really, donezo. You know, because you never created that buzz, and you contacted the label. It's like, that's kind of like the be all and end all of don't do's, you know. So with us, we went into Island Records, and Chris pulled everyone out, got all the junior A&Rs around in a big circle, and we just went round them, battle rapping them, ripping the fucking shit out of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, just annihilating them, you know. And then that was like every other record offices, they all were talking, you hear about those guys, they went in and they fucking annihilated everyone at Island Records, because they all have friends at other A&R offices. So he's like, oh, you won't believe these American rappers came in and just fucking, they called me this and they called me that, you know.
Like a roast battle or something.
Just roasted everyone, because he had seen us do it on stage, and he was like, oh, do it to them, because you're like, they're little minions. So we're like, oh, fuck. But all these little things we were doing was just building the buzz. And eventually we managed to secure the deal with Sony, even though Dougie Bruce is at Sony. So then we're at Sony, and every time we go in the building, it's just fucking hearts going nuts, because if he pops up, it's over.
See at the start when you said I can in front of him, did he say, oh, you guys are Scottish? Like, was it spoken about? Yeah.
immediately he was like, "What'd you say?" And it was like, "All right then." We were like, "Oh no, I said all right then," you know. But that meeting went downhill so fast after that because he kept saying like, "Whereabouts in America are you from?" Like he was dubious. He was like, you know, and I felt like he totally knew, you know. And so we were scared of that guy so much, and it turns out he you know, long story short with him, like because there were so many run-ins and almost being like exposed, is the last time we ever saw that dude, he got into an elevator with us, and we were in this elevator just like fuck, you know, because he was facing away from us in the elevator. If he turned around, you know, and we were just so nervous, and eventually he turned around and he was like, "Hey, like, don't worry about it," you know. He was like, "How good luck and stuff," and he was all right.
Sweet.
So,
yeah.
So we were so scared of that guy, and there was a load of things like that through the industry, but the all we had to do really was like you get out this record deal, and then they're like, "Oh no, we're not releasing the record yet." But our whole thing is, no, we need to. We had like 10 tracks ready when we signed. You know, we weren't like waiting around for nobody. Like we were just like, you know, pretty phenomenal with our. If we went in, we'd make 3 tracks a day. You know, because I had so many beats ready to go. So, but as soon as we get in, we're like, "So when's the release?" You know, because we're sitting around, we're like, "Can't fucking, you know, we've only got a limited time," even though we're in the door. And they're like, no, you don't have any fans. You got to go out on the road. You got to get at least 50,000 fans before we'd even risk, you know, 50K. It's like, fuck, we've been doing this for 5 years. We don't even have like 400. Like, you know, so now, but we managed to do that. We managed to get mailing lists of 10s, 20s, 30,000s. And that was all about like, fuck it. Like, we're going to go on the road. We're going to do uni tours. Like, we're going to play packed uni shows every night. You know, we're going to do on uni radio. We leak a song, it gets to #1 on uni radio. We do it every single day. We're doing insane like stunts, punking each other, just like pranking, doing crazy things that are just going on our MySpace and just being shared around. And it's just like filling the venues, 20, 30, 40 nights. And then, you know, your legs I had a stress fracture. You're like, because we were doing such stupid shit, you know, like constantly breaking yourselves every night. And then you go back and we're like, "Hey, got 50,000 fans, release the record." We're like, "Can't release the record now because," and it's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake," you know, and it's just constantly moving the goalposts, you know, because too many songs were about fucking bestiality or fucking grands or, you know, and we could have just given a big part of the conflict between Bill and I as well is he was always just like, just give them what they want. Why? Just give them a fucking pop. Like, why do you have to like, you know, and it's like, because we have to control this. Because if we don't write, what they want is they want someone else to write everything and just be, you know, I remember they were trying to get us to fucking do a rap version of the Crazy Frog. They were trying.
For fuck's sake.
We made the song "Losers," which is a punk rock song, which Colin from PMX and put drums on, and everyone knew as soon as we started doing the punk stuff with it. It was like, "Oh shit, this is dope as fuck." Like our agents were going, "Oh my god, that's gonna blow up live," you know, especially the kind of stuff we were doing live. Just the rap, doing crazy stupid stuff. It was just us and the rap behind us. The beats was all right, but as soon as you put the band behind it and the band started swinging guitars and stuff, as soon as that was happening, it's like, oh shit, you know.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, so it was hard to convince the label that, but I remember going into Sony, into the A&R's, the head A&R, Celia's office, and she plays me back a mix, like this children's timpani drum version, like a jingle, like a children's show jingle of Losers. And I'm just like, what the fuck I started throwing chairs around. I'm like, oh my God, like we've created, like, what? One of the bass player from Muse was in the next studio when we made that. And he was like, "You guys are going to be the biggest band on the planet." You know, and then the next day I'm in and she's made that she's done out. I'm like, fuck is wrong with you? Like, but that's what you're dealing with. These are not music people. These are office workers.
Yeah.
They're not massive fans of music. You know, she signed Jamiroquai, but that doesn't mean that she knows anything about like what you know about, you know. So again, that type of conflict is, it's just external conflict. That's not really the heart of the story, but that's the kind of shit that you're
It's constant stress though when you're trying to like you're dealing with some like emotional stress as it is, pretending to be a different person all the time, wanting to nail this, and like you said, you have control of, haha, we fooled you, rather than being rumbled. Like it's a stressful thing, man. It's like being undercover. Well, it is undercover, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of viewed it like that. Bill had a different view because Bill was just like, look, we just want to have fun. We just want to have a big career. Like, what's all this nonsense about? You know, they didn't kind of understand. But for me, it was like, fuck them, one, because how many kids, like, careers get destroyed by them just saying you're never going to make it? How many kids from Scotland might have, like, will never have a chance? Like, especially in rap, like, can't discount all these kids who grow up and like, oh, I'm going to be a rapper, you know? And yet, like, the industry is like, no fucking way you're making it as a rapper. So for me, it was like, think about even think about the bands, like think about amazing bands up where we're from who are not going to get a chance, you know? So for me, it was a case of like what they want, giving them what they want is letting them just put a fucking cheesy version, someone else writes it, someone else produces it, and we get, you know, none of the credit. And then when we come out and go, like everyone's going to go, yeah, but you didn't fucking write your shit. Like, where's your credibility? So for me, the credibility was, no. We write everything, we produce everything, we own it. Like, fuck them, you know. Like that is really, we will show the world our talent. In many ways, in my head, like it was almost like, who cares about the releasing it? In some ways, you know, because it was like we had leaked Cunt and it went to #1 on studio radio. So I kind of was starting to think, you've got the fan base now.
Yeah.
Fuck them, you know.
But yourself.
Yeah. So. But obviously that's not really a part of the plan. That wasn't what Bill was sold into. He's given a huge part of his time. Now we're in like, you know, 12, 13 months. You know, he's got an idea of a life that he wants to live. He's got a girlfriend. My girlfriend at the time, Lisa, came down. She could not believe what she saw. She was like, you guys are fucking out of control. Like, and I wouldn't stop speaking American. She was like, stop, you know, it's me, you know, it's just us, drop the fucking silly voice. And I was like, I can't, because as soon as you go, you know, it's going to be hard to get back in character. And she was like, she couldn't understand it. And she saw us what we were like one night out in the Crowbar in central London. And she was like, no fucking way. Like, you guys are clearly doing some crazy shit down here, you know, like.
What, like, just, were you doing like pranks and outrageous stuff?
No, just like being in the bar and like girls all over the crew that was, you know, and I was just like, you think I'm like fucking around? Are you mental, you know? And then she just, there's no way of convincing her, but also I was brains at the time in many ways. So when she decided to leave, I was like, one part of me is like, go after her, stop, you know, like this is your the real girlfriend, like your real person here, you know? And the other part is me like, fuck her, let her go, you know, because that part was becoming it was starting to control. And that was really the last point for me, because I remember after that, Bill asked, you know, telling me like, dude, we're fucking young, like, stop worrying about it, you know, we'll go back home soon, she'll still be there. And all I could think of is like, she was the last thing keeping me Gav. I remember saying like, you're right, I've got literally no reason to be him anymore, you know? And at that point, it was just, boom, I was gone. I just became, you know, you fell hard into the Brains character. And then at that point, you can't see the plan that you had. Then the conflict is now going to start growing and growing and growing, because you totally want things for different reasons. Now I'm just going full on. And also I'm like, fuck the label. I'm becoming like a real fucking enemy of the label, you know, like I'm not letting us be controlled in any way, and yet I'm controlling it. You know, it's like you lose sight of what's, you know, the internal conflict was kind of tearing me up on another level, you know. So because I was still having nightmares and dreams as Gav, and that conflict inside, because I was saying about being a lucid dreamer. Lucid dreaming can be beautiful, but it can be so turbulent and bad. It can make night terrors happen furiously. You know, you can have the most beautiful dream in your life. I would see the friends that had died. I'd see my friend Brian had died, and then it would turn into the most hideous like night terror. You know, where a demon would be like, you know, all over me. So I'd kind of wake up and be like, fuck, I can't get away from Gav, you know? So I was having that battle of like, I don't want to sleep. I want to party all the time because fuck sleeping, I can't become him again, you know?
Yeah.
So real deep and dark shit that at the time I was like, this is so hideous and horrible, but not realizing this is a, you know, because you're too close to it. Even, and I'll tell you this, even when I wrote California Scheming, I was too close to be able to dig into that type of shit that was going on inside. You know, like I wasn't able to think this is a good story. And, you know, even though I'm a talented writer, it was like there was things that were happening that I wouldn't want, that I just couldn't approach. You know, things that had made me who I was in the worst moments that I couldn't even begin dealing with, that I've only now really so far gone from it, been able to like look at it like another person and be like, oh, fuck. You know, but that type of therapy, you give yourself that type of therapy in music. Hopeless Heroic was that for me. I was able to like dive thematically into trauma, but also kind of be like, it's cool. I'm out of it, and I love this band. I'm also Gav now. I'm also talking about that character. So, you know what I mean? But you can't, it was too hard to do it inside. So that's why when you hear Syllable and Brain songs in that era, they're just like surface stupidity, and they're good rhymes, but they're just entertainment, you know? Whereas that you move on to like something like Hopeless Heroic, you're diving into like meaning and you're finding truth, you know?
Yeah, man. So like when at the end of it, was it a conscious decision from you guys to just walk away?
No, it was a pretty brutal ending, as it was always going to be. You know, two alphas. You know, I had kind of in many ways conquered the confidence stuff. I now knew, like, you know, as brains, I was like, look what I can do. So, but something happened that, you know, caused the mother of all fights, and we try to kill each other, you know, and it's those types of fights that you don't ever come back from. You know, there's no way of repairing in many ways, even though we could be around each other now and not talk about anything, you know, be like, oh, there, you know, but we have two very, very different views of our experiences, because one was in it going through all that, and the other was just having a good time and not understanding why are we not fucking huge yet, you know, or the other is like trying to fucking control all this, you know, trying to control and manipulate a label, you know. It's a little bit difficult.
that goes back to the very first point we talked about, I guess, and this is no way to like demean Bill's part in it at all. It's just obviously, like you said, you had different views. It's like one of those books where like it's telling a story. I guess Game of Thrones as a series is quite like that. It's acclaimed because like there's no set chapter. It's like the story from day one for this guy, and then in the same day this guy's view, and how it all intertangles. Obviously you had that obsession with, you know, the revenge, the making it on your own terms and stuff, and it, as you said, he was just kind of enjoying the surface level of it all. So that was a big weight to carry, I guess. And
Bill still had the potential of the life he wanted. It's there because he kind of had the life he wanted before. So nothing essentially really changed. He could just like, I'm out of this, and nothing's really changed. But for me, I've gone through like an unbelievable change. Like from the first moment that we get told we're never going to make it, and then from Brian dying, like everything that happens in my head was like, there is no way back, you know. And if I can come back, it's going to be very different. So I mean, and that was another moment, like when Bill went and no one was taking my calls at that point. Because people started to hear that Syllable and Brains have split and that it went bad. No one takes your calls, and that's scary, you know, because our living room at the time, you know, we used to have parties there, and I'm just like sitting, watching footage of ourselves, and I was like drinking, taking pills, and all I could hear in my head was, if I don't make it by 25, I'll fucking kill myself. It's all I could hear in my head, and it was like, shit, you're 25. You know, and it was fuck. And so, and it was just like, all you can hear is just voices. I'm hearing the dude the bass player from Muse saying, you guys are going to be the biggest act in the world. I'm hearing Lisa tell me, like, when you see Gav, tell him I said hi. You know, all these things are
Ah,
just
shit,
fucking in
man.
my head, you know?
Yeah.
And so I couldn't take the noise. You know, it wasn't music, it was just noise. It was voices, accents. It was just everything telling me. And I just like fucking downed the pills and I was out ski. And so when I woke up in the hospital, I just knew, like, I woke up in the hospital and that was the first time that I woke up. My sister was there. And I was like, I started speaking and it was closer to my real voice, which is a complicated voice because I had a South African voice when I first came to Scotland. So it was like a mashup of voice, but it was not brains. And so I kind of asked my sister to help me, and we went through that process of kind of getting clean and like trying to get your life back, and you know, allowing music back in, and trying to have it in your life in a healthy way. Like, okay, with music, I'm going to do real stuff. I'm going to journey inwards on every track. I'm going to find a new thing about myself that I don't know, you know. And it's weird because sometimes, like, living a lie, you come out at the end of it with nothing but truths, you know, where you
Yep.
know, like, how far will I go? You know that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but only if you fucking face it. Only if you face the demon, not if you just, I survived, you know, but you gotta face the fears, you know. So those are things that I can never look back at and be, you know, regret because I had to take that journey. And so it kind of like me and Rob, or Ivan, who was kind of in that journey, when he got cancer, it was like, we can't, you know, this time we've got a chance to help. We'll do whatever it takes. We put on a show. It was like, we'll raise money for him. I'll come back. We'll fill the venue, and you know, we'll make money for him. And he died before I went on stage that night. And so it was like, it was, and I was gonna go on stage as Brains, and you know, and be that character again. But losing Ivan, it was just like, I was like, I don't know who to be. And I remember Rob telling me, he was like, dude, go on stage and just fucking be you. Like, it's good enough. Like, what? Just, it's good enough. Be you, man. And I remember walking out, fucking tears, fighting back the tears, like trying to say stuff on the mic, which is being like, you know, like not being able to actually get words out. And then just eventually just saying, look, this is who I am, telling the audience of like 300 people, just go, what?
Who all still thought you were
Yeah,
Brains,
thought it was Brains, yeah.
this Californian dude.
Yeah. So, but you know, coming out the other side of that, and just then people being like, once they got it, people being like, holy shit, this is like the greatest story ever. You know, people from the label or like journalists and people just being like, you gotta tell this fucking story, man. You know, so then I started that journey of actually going back to the core art, which is writing and words, and just, you know, become a writer now and like take the journey. It's going to be a long one, but do it, you know, go. And that's what it ends up being. It's like, I always kind of look at it like people to this day, when I meet new people, they're like, oh, what do you do? And that is like, it's a frightening question, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's like, I don't want to be a cunt, but it's like, whatever it takes, you know, to feel okay, you know, and that is art. So I don't be like, I'm an artist, you know, but it's like, I'm a writer, you know, like I live experiences and then I try to decode them with writing. And then that way I feel like I can get a better understanding of the experience that just happened.
I
You know?
think if you know, we all do that. I think I've not met many people who are like down to earth that, you know, I use the word art as well because it's not just music, like I said, but you always say, but I don't mean art piece. But if you just change the word to like, I'm an expresser, like I live my life just expressing things. Like no
That
one's
sounds like
batting
a
an
coffee.
eyelid. Yeah.
I took my espresso with 3 sugars.
I'll lap a frappuccino actually, but sure, man, you just live your life through like expressing your feelings, and if you don't do that, it'd be like this internal fucking like pressure cooker, you know. But
Yeah.
I think like for the long and short of it, man, like I don't know. I guess you can say what your whole. I mean, I'm glad you don't have regrets, but I don't know how your overall kind of view of all that was, but you were heroes to everyone. I can only speak for the Scottish scene, and I don't mean that in a wanky way. I just mean because, like, whether you meant to or not, whether it was a super personal reason you were doing it, but you were just going like, well, fuck you. It's just because we were singing in a Scottish accent. We've got to
Yeah.
sing because we were the same as like punk rock kids. Like, I now sing in my Scottish accent, but that took fucking years, man. That took
Yeah.
like really Biffy Clyro being able to
Yeah.
like be accepted. But
Yeah.
you know, before that you had to sing like fucking Tom DeLonge, but no
Mm.
one really wanted to. You just wouldn't have been taken seriously. Funnily enough, if you sang like that now, people would go, "Why the fuck are you singing like that?"
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that was the road for Simon and Biffy as well. It's like they had to do it an American. You know, and they've still got a bit of conflict every time they do 57 because it's very much a American, like
Yeah,
the way the words fall, you know. So yeah, but I guess it's like music. That this was the whole reason I like the conflict I had as well with hip hop is this idea of like it's all about identity, but everyone in hip hop is playing a role. Like the idea of you like flexing and being like, yo, that immediately you're playing a role. You're playing
yeah,
a character, you
of
know?
course.
It's the point of it, you know? Like, and the point of an artist or a lead singer or someone in a band or even writing songs is to take people out of reality in many ways. So this idea of keep it real, I feel like that is an oppressive statement. That says stay there. That says stay in your fucking lane. And I always find that extremely offensive. Like, and it's been a bit of a struggle to get some of these ideas across to the Scottish hip hop scene, although always got love from like the people who are really doing something, you know, like Nitty Grits or people like that, you know, like the people who are like actually, you know, doing something, you know, like
Yeah,
you know, like actually knowing what it takes to go out and promote a record or no, you know, those are the people who kind of get it. And I think you can get the intention always to like, even if it is a case of like, you know, like when you're in a scene, when you're in a band scene, you know, like someone does something cool and everyone does it the same, you know, that idea of like, as soon as one band goes, fuck y'all, we're going tour in Japan, or fuck y'all, we're going, you know, everyone's like, oh, what? You know, or you're gonna get fucked. It's not gonna work out. It's gonna, you know, because everyone's scared that someone becomes an outlier. And I never viewed it like I'm a part of this. My brain was always like, I want to see what I'm capable of. It's got nothing to do with the, you know, where I have to go on this journey because I have to find myself. But the flip side of that is once I do, I can come home a hero. I can be a reflection of everything I've gone through. And funnily enough, now that is kind of what's happening. You know, I still live in London. I still had this idea that I couldn't go home until I'd done what I set out to do. And I feel like it's there now. I feel like, I mean, and some people would be like, oh, you did it years ago. It's like, not really, you know, like, because I do feel like Scotland is my home and it's where I finally rest my hat. And I do long for Scotland in many ways. You know, like this COVID thing, not being able to see family for a year and a half has been so hard. Like just
yeah,
getting out of London and going to like breathe in the Scottish air, it's something that's very different, you know? And so it is a case of like staying in London and fighting this battle to this day, and it's been a fucking fight. It's a fight every day. I'm negotiating film deals and I'm negotiating this and that. It is a fight for your own rights, for
yeah,
your own life. It is a fight, you know? Someone wants to tell your story. It's like, cool. Like some big director wants to tell your story. Cool. But now you've got to fight to have your ability to tell it. It is mental the shit you go through in entertainment, and that war is draining. It eats your soul every day. And I've always thought, but if I can get through this war and go back to Scotland and just be like, this is what happened. Like this is genuinely what happened, and this is where I'm at now, and I'm like, I'm fine with it all. You know, like make your own minds up now. That
brilliant, man.
that would be the end of where I lay it at. You know.
It was 2012 we came down on our tour.
Yeah.
Before we toured with you guys, I think it was a year after you came up and you went, those guys that stayed at my house, yeah, we'll take you on tour because it was Gordon that invited us down. And I guess
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
like, yeah, they weren't assholes. I've heard the demo. They'll do for a tour support. Um, and yeah, you were negotiating like the film and stuff then. So obviously, obviously I don't want you to explain the ins and outs because,
yeah,
A, it's private, B, it would take fucking so long, I'm sure.
yeah.
But like, obviously, I know that's something you are pretty confident will happen, but is it just like these are how long these things take, like films, things like that, like negotiations, like everything?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like sometimes you can get in a bed with the wrong people, you know, who don't understand the story. And again, it's like these people a lot of the time are not real creatives, you know, and like when you're dealing with big, huge companies, they do not give a fuck. You know, like they see all artists and writers and, you know, unaccredited people as, you know, people who are going to sabotage the project, you know, not like collaborators, you know, they just don't really get it. But the cool thing is that, yeah, it does take that long, but the danger is that there's the wrong people out there. And I've been in a couple of those situations, and those were huge situations. You know, those were like, it was like, oh, cool, we'll go for the gusto, take the big deal. And that's what I've constantly learned, that, you know, multiple times now. Like sometimes the big deal just is not the right deal, you know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, then you have to wait it out. You got to wait out contracts. And that, being in that kind of fucking purgatory is just, it can destroy your soul, especially when you are super creative. But this is why you have to have your other shit so that you can. I've just finished a draft of a script and I feel great about it. But through that last kind of finishing parts of it, I'm just like, because I want to get back to that track I was mixing, you know, because I want to, you know, and I want to go and walk and I want to go and get my fitness back. And, you know, like, so it is, I am that kind of person still who's like all fucking in. You know, if I sit down and do a script, I'm going to basically sabotage everything in my life just to nail that script, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm still learning how to not be so crazy with things. But yeah, it's like, it's chaos, but it's a cool chaos, you know?
Yeah, good chaos, man. Like you're just fighting to be you, and I think the over not fighting to just fighting to make sure that you're living your life as you now, which I guess after what you had to go through is super valuable and worth
Yeah.
more than anything, you know. But I think I just think it's a class story, a class journey that, you know, you then came back in the most authentic way with Hopeless Heroic. You know, I know you guys were super like you dished out your number to like fans, like not in a like not in a
Yeah.
Me Too brand new way, but like I was there, I saw that, you know, guys like Di, like our good friend and your drummer who's sadly passed away now, but like you guys were all, and Rob, you lived and breathed like, you know, we've been in dark places. If you guys need us, here's a band phone number, you know, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like, it was fucking amazing. You said, and you were just being that upfront guy talking about your own struggles and that. So
yeah.
it obviously just shows the full circle, man. So yeah, I'm proud of you as you know, we're not like close friends purely because we just have never met bunch of times, but yeah, I'm proud of you as a mate, and I'm proud of you and Billy in terms of, you know, Scottish music scene, what you did, and then what you've
Yeah,
done
yeah,
after.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
man,
I think
class story.
I think the thing with like with Hope is Heroic is after after Syllable and Brains, and like, you know, you can go from the bedroom to like 5,000 people. There's something that's really weird about that, you know, like, and seeing the progression of fans, it almost seems like it's too easy, but it's like you're working hard and you're making that happen. But when it happens like that, you know, exponential, you can't shake hands with people. There's a bit of a gap between them, and also the context of what you're doing, the music and stuff is kind of like, if someone wants to be around you, they're probably gonna like smash something over their head to prove to you that they're crazy or whatever. Whereas with Hopeless Heroic, it was always about like real shit. It was like, um, we did have that open. We used to have Friday sometimes. Friday before if we were going to go out, we'd have a Friday like a few hours before we went out. We might be sitting there having drinks, but we'd turn on the computers and let anyone hit us with anything and open the doors. Sometimes that can be really bad because we had quite a few scary situations. We had stalkers, some that followed us around the entire country. We had a girl who came to a venue with a knife and stuff and shut the whole venue down. Things like that. Like, we had some real scary moments, but for the connections that we built with people, like, I still know people they've just finished uni, and like they ask me advice for their career now, and or some of them are writers. Some of them have like taken different paths because of like meeting the band, and that is kind of crazy. There's a flip side to that as well, because you can when sometimes when you're not there to help people, that they can fall into the wrong path, and I've seen it go bad as well. But it's just that ability to like actually, like, look, if you want to say something, if you feel like you're hurting, you can say it to me. You can. It's all right, you know. And because I would have loved that if someone was there for me like that, you know. I would have
Man,
absolutely loved that, you know.
man, that's something I've asked in each one of these. I don't want it ever to have like a cheesy stock thing, but you've hit the nail on the head right there. I heard a quote just last year, and it sticks with me every single day. It says, "Be the person your younger self needed."
That's great.
So, I mean, on that, what would you give yourself, your younger self, advice? And that could be when you were playing your character. That could be your young self. Like, do you think there's a thing you would tell your younger self now?
Yeah, just be assuring. I mean, sometimes I always say, like, if I could go back, I would tell that younger self to just do it, and don't worry and don't care. Like, not like be careful of this, be careful of that. It's like
Mhm.
it'd be like, don't care, you know, care less. Just do it, and do it faster. You do it, just let it all hit you. You know, like, don't try to duck too much. You know,
All
don't.
goes back to the drop in at the skate park, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's one of the hardest things to understand is the idea that pain is necessary. It really is. It's
Yeah,
important. It's how you know that you're alive, not just on a physical, but it's how you know that you've got something to fight for. Like, and I'm not talking about a goal, like a winning. Your mental health is what you have to fight for. Your ability to feel good in your own skin, the ability to enjoy the quiet. Those are things that the journey into noise is then necessary. It's gonna hurt. Like getting pounded down, told you're shit, like whatever the journey is, if it's in sport, you're gonna break yourself. You gotta go through it, you know. And that's what I would say is just like enjoy the pain. It sounds weird, but
yeah,
enjoy this hurt, you know,
yeah.
because after a while, it's not gonna hurt anymore, you know.
It won't be as real,
Yeah, like
for
there's
sure,
only so
man.
much, you know.
That's amazing. So what have you got? What have you got coming up? What are you working on at the moment, or anything imminent?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get this. I've got like the 11th album that has got some of those tunes that I've been kind of just posting out and letting people hear.
Ah, class, man.
Yeah, just trying to put it together. It's taken on it's quite a journey of sound from. It's got just so many different influences, and it's very experimental. But it's still like I have that thing of like I like experimenting, but I like things to be stuck in people's heads as well. So I think it could be it's got to be, you know, like from the journey it's got to be the best thing I've ever done, but but it should be more listenable as well. So I'm really excited about that. I'm studying, you know, sound design. I've decided to go back because I don't think you can ever stop learning. So I think I've gone back and I've started studying mixing and engineering, sound design, just because I want to know, you know, how to get the actual thing that's in my head out. You know, and now that I've just done 1 year of it, like I'm just like, oh my God, like I wish I could go back and touch the old records, which I might get a chance to do with soundtracks and stuff. So that's the future is just it's full of art. You know, I've written quite a few different stories, screenplays now. I kind of walked away from writing like novella and like long form just because it's so immersive that it can take you away from other art. Like a book can take 6 months sometimes, you know, and you'll get lost in the weeds heavily. But I like the fact that I can pump a script in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or a couple months, and then boom, I'm back in. And sometimes through that, I make music for a scene just to keep me in. You know, I'll make like 6 tracks, and then I'll write a script because the 6 tracks will have the exact tension that I need to stay in for the script. You know, so it's just that. It's just creativity. You know, like there's loads of other projects I'm doing. I'm still teaching rappers and musicians, and I'm trying to get all that teaching into like courses, you know, so people can do it, so I don't have to be there all the time, you know. So it's just that it's like we learn in this world. The whole point of it's got to be like in some way pass on or teach, you know. And and still keep learning. I think you should be teaching as you're learning as well. Like it makes
Yeah, man.
sense. Keep learning, keep teaching, and yeah, and just be someone who I would have wanted to have there. Like it's a really great quote that you said, but I like the idea of people being able to come to me and be like, "Hey, man, you don't know me, but this is what's happening." And I guarantee you, I've done this my entire life. I have answered every single person back. I've never not answered someone who's contacted me. Sometimes it might take a while or whatever because I'm doing like a script or whatever, but that is important to me.
Yeah,
Like
man.
being someone for an artist is actually what I feel like a part of my plate, and journey to like not make things easier for anyone, but just kind of like just be someone they can springboard something off and just be like, yeah, you're all right, you're doing all right.
That's class, man. That's super important. And yeah, man, I thank you so much for telling everyone, sharing everything. Where can people hear your stuff or follow what you're up to if you want
Yeah,
them to?
well, they can listen to obviously Syllable and Brains on Spotify. All 6 records are on there. Then the Hopeless Heroics on Spotify. And the Brains Mcloud solo stuff. I kept the Brains character because I did think that I owed it to be able to be Brains vocally on a record, and then I can turn him off, and like
Yeah.
just be a normal person. I actually like now stepping into him and disappearing and have that little titillation of have that mind state and then come out of it. So there's Brains Mcloud on Spotify, and the funny thing is the Brains stuff is doing better than all of the other stuff, and I don't really know specifically why, other than it's just raw and me, and because I don't know about you, but I don't sit on social media. I don't really do any of that stuff. I think that some of that stuff I used to concentrate on stuff like that and think virally, but I think there's a way to do that right. But I think it takes you away from music. When you're, who wants to be a TikTok rapper or who a TikTok performer? It's like it's so surface, it's so tiny that you might pop or whatever. That's not making it. That's not feeling good inside. So I give it everything to the music, and put it out. And the story, luckily enough, crazy enough, from being told you will never make it because we can't sell your story. Randomly, I have this story that sells the music I do, which is
100%, yeah.
it's bonkers.
Yeah.
It's like this.
And eventually it's all going to be about the story. Because, I mean, I'd
Yeah.
recommend anyone to watch that BBC doc on the iPlayer, or if it's not there anymore, the YouTube, the great hip hop hoax. But yeah, man, like when you've got this movie, they've got the book there, it is the story and it is the journey, isn't it?
It's a musical. I mean, it's a musical. It really is. It's a musical journey. I've been working on writing a stage play, and I've again in talks with that as well of taking some of the best stage performances that I've done through my career, but having a storyline through the subtext of those, and telling a great story that way, because you can do that in music. It really is a powerful tool, and thankfully, Jesus, like rap, that choice of choosing rap as the main way has luckily the skills transferred into other areas in a crazy way that I couldn't have thought. This is that great thing of like, to a young person, like even if the idea of the hobby you have is so like left field, it seems like there's not even an industry there or whatever. If you've got that feeling, you don't know where that's going to go. So, follow it, because I would never have known that just having an addiction for words would transfer across music and then screenwriting or long form writing. It's all stuff that you really have to be like you and I. You kind of have to be an obsessive person. You have to have in many ways an addictive personality, but music can be that thing that you choose over alcohol and other things. Music can actually be the thing that is the good addiction,
Yeah, man. Well, man, I think my lasting comment on it all would be, obviously, it started as, an act, and then, you've admitted yourself it kind of overtook, like a lie overtook your being. But I'd say you're probably like, if not one of the most authentic people I know now, because you spent all your time just outpouring this art. So, man, that's a credit to yourself. It's pretty inspirational, man. So, again, just thanks so much for chatting, mate. And it's been,
thanks, dude. Yeah, it's good
been too long.
It's good to chat with people who like fucking get it, you know.
Yeah, man.
And I wish this COVID thing was gone, because like, and I hope, and as soon as it is, I'm gonna be up in the D, and hopefully we'll get a beer and
100%, man.
You know?
You're welcome through to Glasgow anytime, and
Yes.
we can maybe get a few of the boys together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Catch up and stuff. But yeah, anytime, bro.
Absolutely, dude. Nice one.
Awesome, man. Right, well, thanks again, man. Eating up half your night here, but
No worries.
we'll catch up again soon, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, dude.
Right.
I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, man. See you later.
Yeah, bro.
Bye.
Cheers.
Yeah, we're talking about you.